Hey, welcome to Real Talk episode 155. I'm Todd. This is AJ, and we're back.
Yo, 155. Here we go. Let's get it.
We are miserable today. That's a fact. So we're going to get this out in the open because let me tell you why I'm going to do this.
Okay.
Because people that watch our show long term, and you know this, they're going to bring it up. They're going to say, "What's wrong with you guys? Why don't you love Jesus? You look sad. Shouldn't you be happy all the time?" That's what they're going to say.
That's true, actually.
It's happening. And sometimes, here's the thing, man. We do love Jesus, and yet we still get angry and sad because we're human beings.
Yep.
So
we are human. That's
so
true.
we're all kind of going through some stuff. Had a really serious talk before we went online today, or went on today.
Yeah.
So in case you guys pick up any weird vibe, we're good. We love each other, all that kind of stuff. It's not even all just about us, man. Just real talk happens all the time, and we have those conversations not just on camera.
Yeah, it's true, man.
So,
a lot of the stuff that we talk about, on here, we tend to almost kind of go into beforehand, like when we're talking about like how our lives are.
Personal lives, yeah.
Yeah, like we can tend to kind of talk about that stuff before, whether that's something that just happened or something that has been reoccurring, whether that's causing issues or, but like you said, that the real talk does happen, not just here. And so that's true.
Yeah, and I just know me and you both are not the best at hiding our emotions on our face. You are better than me. I am terrible at it. So, yeah, life, just to be real about it, man. Like, we're just getting into this. Life is hard. Church is hard. Community is hard. People are not fun, right? We as human beings are selfish and broken and if we're not intentional, Clint mentioned a message that I did a few years ago, and it's true, called bumper cars or bumper, I don't remember, bump, whatever. And it's this idea. Something along those lines. We do that, man. Like if I have a bad day, I come in and I bump into you, which makes you have a bad day, and you're going to bump into someone else, and it's just this mess. And we're talking about culture. We talk about it all the time. We're not going to stop talking about culture, about the church. And so it's not just us. It's just life's heavy, man. And I'll speak for myself. I told the guys before we got on, I'm in a weird place. And it's not like I'm like miserable or mad all the time even or anything like that. It's just like I guess I'm running a little low on hope and a little low on passion, which if anyone that knows me knows both of those I have quite a bit of typically. Like I'm a pretty, even though I don't think about it, I'm usually a typically pretty hopeful person because when you're a dreamer, you tend to be a hopeful person because you think things are possible. So I haven't had a lot of that, and what that ends up doing is I think it puts me like you used the word right before we went on, and honestly, man, it just describes where I'm at, and it's the word defeated. I feel defeated lately, in the sense of like not like I just roll over and die, but like more like. There's a bunch of stuff happening around me, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense?
No, it does make sense because I think I can relate to it a lot. But I think for me personally, I think I tend to be more like, when I think of defeated for me, I think I have two stages of it. I think I do the thing where, like you're saying, like where I'm like, oh, everything's fine or whatever, when everything's kind of burning. But then I also get to the part of like where, like you say, like I don't usually get there, which is my problem. Is I get over to the rollover and die part a lot of the time.
Yeah, both are not good.
No, definitely not good.
But you know what? And what? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I don't know if I really had anything else after that.
So, we just want to say that, and I know that's a weird way to start the show, but otherwise you're going to pick up on it. You're going to think we hate each other. You're going to think we're mad or something's going on. So we just told you ahead of time. We're being real.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that maybe. But we got a full show today. We really do. We got a lot to go on. First and foremost, I don't know if you can see everything, but happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day.
I know this is coming at you guys a day after, but we didn't get a chance to say to you, will you be our Valentine?
Happy Love Day.
Will you be mine?
Will you be my forever girl?
Yeah. So anyway, pretty cool. Funtern. I think old production guy Blake, a monster that we don't even really interact with anymore, but he apparently helped him. And so in lieu of that, look at this. We got a Valentine.
Yeah, man, we did. We got a Valentine.
And I feel terrible because I didn't get Funtern a Valentine.
Me either, man.
And Funtern thought of us, and from what I'm told, there's a special message to us on this.
There is, yes.
And a giant Kit Kat, which I am going to enjoy.
Strawberry and dark chocolate. He even kept it healthy.
Yeah. So, note to everyone, AJ believes that because it's dark chocolate Kit Kat, that's a healthy treat.
That's all the reason why you're right.
Well, you know that it wasn't just the dark chocolate. It was also the strawberry.
Yeah. You are the smile that makes my heart happy. Thank you.
That is kind.
And also amazingly good looking.
There's never a dull moment with you.
Love you, Todd. You're awesome, man. All warrior. Thanks, man. I love you too.
Love you, man.
And
Thank you.
Incredibly looking and scratched it out. So thank you.
I ran into
spacing problem.
Yeah, I write too big.
Listen, I've said this before. Funtern is nicer than any girlfriend I've ever had. For my ego, that's a fact. And yours says what?
Mine says, "There's never a dull moment with you. Love you, dude. Hope you have a great Valentine's Day."
Yeah, mine says that too. And the truth is, there is never a dull moment with you.
It's true, man.
So,
I couldn't figure out how to spell Leviathan, or else I would have put that on there. That's just an inside joke.
So we'll do. You know what we'll do here? We'll do a little taste test. So thank you, Funtern.
Yeah, man. I love
making
it.
the day special. I think.
Appreciate
honestly,
you, dude.
You've got a really good eye for decorating. I'm not just saying
He
that.
does.
It's uncanny. He's always decorated for all of our holidays. So he's
little
you know
holiday
what?
packs.
This intern's worked out okay. This Funtern. Way more positive than that other fun guy we used to have. Remember him? He hated fun.
Down guy.
Oh, yeah.
Down guy Austin.
If he listens to this, he's gonna hate us.
Yep.
This is incredible, by the way.
I'm excited to try it.
Funtern, did you get yourself one?
No.
Here.
It smells good. This is it.
That thing flew like a frisbee.
Dude,
it
had an upward trajectory. I don't know how you did that.
Pretty good. It's one of those things that the strawberry is there. It's understated, but it's there. I would eat this candy bar as a separate candy bar.
Yeah, this is really good.
Oh, yeah.
Do they just do this as a regular candy bar or no?
I think this one was for Valentine's Day.
It's good.
They're getting really good at this. Kit Kat is actually, you know how all these
They are
candy
one of the better ones, yeah.
They've hit a lot of ones out of the
really
park.
good, man.
The fruity cereal one's really good. We had that one on there too.
We found out that Reese's has really gone. Oh, the fruity cereal one is good, but Reese's is also creating a wide variety of treats as of late.
They're just like, what can we make? Compacted peanut butter?
Remember that the one that snack bar you brought the other day was pretty good. It's kind of a light granola bar Reese's, but
They do snack cakes.
they do that one that has chips in it. I saw it at Walmart. You can't really taste the chip, but it's supposed to be in there.
Oh, I love it.
I'm trying to keep my mouth away from the mic so no one can hear me.
Oh, they heard
can
me
already
chew,
hear
bro.
you.
I was right here.
I can hear you chew.
I can hear you chew next county over. So,
Wow, chewer guys, I'm so
thank
sorry.
you. No, it's your saliva, man. It's not that.
That's true, actually.
No,
AJ produces a high amount of saliva.
I have the opposite problem. Everything crunches that I could chew. I could eat
That's
literally
also
a
true.
marshmallow and it would
you heard
crunch.
him? Yeah, dude. That's a great way to put it. Everything he chews crunches. That's not even a joke. A marshmallow. That's that's right. That's spot on.
I've been told that I also have a weird way that I chew.
How's that?
I'll show you.
Okay. Pause the show. You know what it's like? It's a camel. You chew like a camel. Really? Yeah. Because that's the first thing I thought of. And I'll tell you the difference. It's not a horse, okay? Because you started here, kind of in the frontish. See? And then you go back and forth, right? You don't go all the way back. You're right here. That's a camel. You're a camel chewer.
It makes me wonder if that's a part of the reason why
I think I chew weird too. I'm gonna try.
I chew the way I do. Like it produces so much noise.
Because it's in the front?
Maybe.
Here I go.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm even chewing the way I really chew. I think I'm like a British guy.
Dude, I don't even know if mine's the way I chew or I just have terrible teeth.
3 fingers.
And I refuse to get braces. They literally were like, we're going to give you braces. You're going to do this. And they're like, do you want braces? And I looked at my mom and I said, I'm not getting braces. And she just went like this. Well, good luck convincing him. And then they tried. And then we left. And they're like, I didn't convince you, did they? And I'm like, they almost had me. And then they said I couldn't have popcorn.
I hate popcorn. So it would work for me. I can't. She like a camel, man. That's
So, because I was told that it's like my chin kind of goes back and forth, like it rocks back and forth. Is that true?
I already told you what I said. Maybe that's the camel part that I'm noticing. You think I just picked the camel randomly? I'm telling you the truth. When I looked at you, I go, "What am I seeing right now?" It is a camel. Have you seen a camel chew?
Maybe that's why I'm having a hard time, because I don't think I've ever seen a camel chew.
Gotcha.
Or if I have, I just didn't really pay much attention, which would fit my MO.
Well, I mean, it's probably weird that I've studied the chewing of a camel. But regardless.
Dude, I want you to know when you said, I chews like a camel, and I'm like, Todd is such an eclectic man that he knows how a camel chews compared to a horse.
Here's a camel chewing straight on. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, it doesn't go that far over. It doesn't go that far over. It doesn't go... It doesn't... Your jaw doesn't all the way go over, but it kind of fits what you said people told you, right? Mm-hmm. I told you, it's a camel. Anyway, it doesn't go over that much.
You showed me that?
Yeah.
I'm going to put that on the screen.
Yeah.
That fits with your childhood because Lord knows you were just watching some action movie and then like you saw a camel and you're like, that's how I chew.
That's hilarious. Anyway, that's that. Don't be insulted, man. Camels are a powerful animal.
They spit in people's faces.
It's a powerful animal, right? Anyway, hey.
Why is it powerful?
What's powerful about a camel? Have you ever seen it? Camels can go a long time. A camel is a strong animal.
All right? Can go a long time what?
Walking.
Okay.
Chewing, whatever they're doing, man. They go without water.
Drink a lot of water.
Anyway, I think they can spit, can't they?
Oh, yeah. They spit in people's faces. It's terrible.
Yeah, I've heard camels are pretty ornery, as the word would say.
Uh-huh. You have to promote. People who work with them are the most hilarious.
I kind of want one.
They're like this. They're like, and they like slowly walk up, and they're like putting their hands out, and they're like very like, or they're just like It depends on the person because sometimes they'll just walk up to the camel, slap it in the face, and say, "Get on it."
I kind of want a camel. I'm not kidding you. The weird part about me bringing up the camel, it makes sense why I immediately knew it was a camel. Because the other day I saw something happened with it. Like I watched a video of a camel, and no joke, I was like, I kind of want a camel. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen them run? When someone's riding them? It looks so funny.
I've never seen.
I've heard they're very uncomfortable to ride.
I can imagine. Well, because you're just kind of sitting in the hump, right? Like,
they're a strange animal, actually. Mm-hmm. You ever they're one of those animals like the elephant that we take for granted because we've seen them, as humans. But I want you to picture seeing a camel for the first time, just running through the desert, running at you.
Yeah, man.
That's a strange animal.
It is. That's an odd sight,
or
actually.
Or the elephant.
Huh.
Hippo, any of that stuff.
Oh, a lot of it, man.
Yeah.
Giraffes.
Yeah. It's a strange animal.
Imagine the camel running towards you, and they're like, "What is that?" And then it gets within range and spits on them, and they're like, "What the?"
Yeah. They're weird animals. Anyway, we're gonna go. We may come back to our lives. I think we need to dive into some questions. We got a lot going on here. Questions today.
Okay.
We even had some come in last minute. So I'll go ahead and start. Stick around, folks. We're gonna have a good time today. Maybe. But we do have a lot of really interesting questions and some pretty cool articles to go through. You like the Biebs? You're a fan of Bieber and his wife? Well, we got an article for you.
Boom.
You a Gen Zer? Stick around. We'll tell you all about yourself.
We'll tell you exactly how you live.
Yep. Moving on. So AJ, number one. This is an interesting question. People have been giving us kind of interesting questions trying to about us lately, and I find this one a bit interesting in the sense of I get what they're asking. I don't know why I'm still talking. Here he is. Number one. We all get jealous sometimes, and I was wondering if you guys ever have to fight off feelings of jealousy towards each other. If so, what have you been jealous of in each other? In an interesting way, this could also be a complimentary thing.
Yeah, it's funny because most of the time when I'm in a positive place, I usually think, yeah, man, that's cool. That's a genuine question, but being in not so great of a place lately, I can think they're trying to turn us against each other.
Yeah, I could see that. But that's why when I think of jealousy, though, I kind of view it as a good thing. So I'll start. So, there have been times AJ, and this is not a joke, AJ, I always tell him he has an ability I think I used to have, where AJ is naturally, people just love the guy. And I think at times I could be jealous of the fact that, people think good of him, naturally, which is pretty cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the past. Now again, jealous is a strong word.
Yeah.
But because envious sounds worse.
No.
So jealous, but in the spirit of the question, I would say that. But really, I've also admired it because I've told him that, and I think it's a cool gift to have.
Thank you.
Yeah, I used to have it before, and I think look at your sad mirrored future.
Sad mirrored future.
You become a jaded person and lose it. But anyway, yeah, I've thought that. I guess as far as I'll leave it there. I don't think I've.
Okay. I would say, for you, man, your boldness. I get jealous of your boldness. I do. And I think I can find myself like wishing that I was able to like communicate the way you do. You're a great communicator. I would say that you're able to get a message across to people, and even like to me, for example. And I think that I'm not the best at that. Like, I don't think I'm a great communicator. So I would definitely say your boldness and your communication skills are big. And dude, like you're just also a go-getter, man. Like that's one thing that's probably the biggest one actually. Like I just admire how much that you're just able to just say, you know what, we're going to do this. And you just find ways to do it, man. You don't give up.
It's ironic considering I started by saying I'm defeated. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
Funtern, I mean, and this is going to sound crazy. Dude, he's a pretty natural athlete, man. Mm-hmm. And he also has an ability to, like, things happen to him. This is going to sound so ridiculous, but he doesn't get hurt. Mm-hmm. Like, it's going to sound something to be jealous about, but, like, I've seen things happen to him, like the time down the hill where we talked about this on Real Talk.
Oh, yeah.
And my knee would have shredded. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, I'm fine, and hobbles along. You know what I mean? Or like the time in basketball a few weeks ago, and he went.
Yeah, that was.
And I thought he was dead.
Dude. That was scary,
right? And he just hopped back up and kept playing.
Yep.
He's like made of titanium. Strangest thing. Saw him snap a table in half too.
Yeah.
He was I would say for Funtern, I really admire his mind. I think he's very creative, and he's able to. Yeah, man, you're able to like take things and just expand on them, man. And like that's just such a cool skill. Like I don't have that skill. Like I'm not able to just like create a world as I'm going. Like I can't do that. And it's cool because that also like that leaks into other areas of your life too. Like it doesn't just stay there. Like you're able to think of creative things in other places. It doesn't just stay in that specific spot, and that's really cool. So if I was jealous of one thing, man, it's your mind. You have a very cool mind.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. What do you got?
This next question. The family and homes we are raised in shape who we become so much.
That's true.
What are the things you hope to keep going with your own adult families, and what are the things you want to protect your adult family from? Your wives, kids, etc.
Like from our family life? We were raised?
Yeah, what are the things you hope to keep intact, and the things you would rather like kind of like try to get rid of and not?
Yeah, I appreciate. So I think a couple things come to mind, so I'll use one that's sort of a double-edged sword. I appreciate that my family raised me to believe that no one's better than me. Right? Not that the exact phrase I've been taught by both my parents independently growing up. Hey, nobody's better than you, and you're not better than anyone else. Right? Or you're not better than anyone else, but no one's better than you either. So this idea of like kind of tied to that is like you can do anything. You know, you can accomplish anything. I can kind of believe that. And I love that. And kind of the fighter mentality of like, I'll just keep fighting. You know, boldness, kind of like you said.
Yeah.
I think protecting from it would sort of be the dark side of that, which is, you know, can at times be like, don't share feelings, you know, feelings like hurt and sadness. Like that wasn't shared really ever. You know, as we got older, when you're a little kid, I'm not saying like when we got hurt, but like as far as like I'm sad today, I never knew how to process that stuff, you know, that kind of thing, and never shared that. So I think that would be one of them. And then kind of the dark side of the fighting thing is like being a fighter, like in the sense of you know, you can come off as aggressive all the time and all that kind of stuff. So that'd probably be it. That there's a healthy balance between the two.
Yeah, man. I would say for me, one thing that I'd want to keep from the way I was raised is like security. Like I knew when I was growing up, like I was gonna have what I needed. I would definitely
nice.
I would definitely want to keep that. Because it was just so nice having to not worry about whether or not I was gonna have clean clothes or have food. Like I never had to worry about that stuff, and I would love to provide that for my family if I have one. Secondly, as far as like what I'd probably want to avoid, it would be just nobody really processing through any sort of feelings like that was really hard. It still affects me now. So I would definitely want to make it a point to let people know like how we're doing, how we're feeling, if there's any problems, because even though that's something I still struggle with now, whenever I'm able to break through that and actually tell people, hey, there's a problem. Hey, this is how I'm feeling. The other side is always so much better. Like there's peace now, or a problem's able to get solved. Like there's always a better outcome when you're able to do that, opposed to just not telling anybody anything. So that's probably a big one I'd want to avoid.
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, man.
Go down, come up. There you go. Shouldn't have touched it.
Dude, I'm so sorry.
No. I actually had it in a decent spot, and I foolishly moved it or touched it at all. So that was my mistake. All right. What's something that has you excited that's coming up in your personal lives?
Well, this is a hard question right now because
Same way.
yeah, I was say this is a hard question right now because honestly, like we kind of told you pre-show, like not pre-show, but like in the beginning of the show that we're kind of all in a weird place. Like, a lot of changes have been happening lately, and they're not necessarily good ones for me personally. So, what am I looking forward to? I don't know. I'm, I will say this. I'm thankful that I'm not where I used to be. I will say that. I am thankful that I'm not just like by myself, not seeing people, I think that I can at least take that and know like, dude, like I'm still like things could be so much worse than where they're at now. So even if I'm having a hard time finding something to be excited about, looking forward to, it doesn't mean that life is worse than it was then. And that's what I'm trying to hold on to in my mind. I will say this, man, I still love church. Like, whenever we're in that sanctuary with all those people, like it's special to me. And like, it's powerful still. And so if there's one thing to be excited about in my personal life, man, it's being able to go to church. That's something that, since I've been saved, dude, like I just can't see myself not going to church now. Like it's such a beautiful thing. And I don't know where I would be without church. So like if there's ever one thing I'll be excited, like that I'll always have like, hey, that I'm looking forward to that. It's church. So to answer your question, I look forward to church this week. What about you, man? Sorry.
I have no idea.
I
was going to say the same thing as you.
I get it, man.
Something's coming up. Yeah, I told you guys I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that, and I don't say that like no, everything's bad. I just don't have anything that I'm really excited about coming up. Funtern, you got anything? Which is what?
It's just different from people probably used to, but like that's the truth. Like
yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
Because I think there's two things, and one is define excited, and the other one is
touche.
I guess I'm excited to go to Winter Jam this week. I'm going to it again, and I'm in a better place than I was before. And I think I'll go into it when we talk about our lives, but I'm realizing things about myself, and I'm excited to go to that, and I'm excited to see, just go see all the artists again, scream my voice raw again, get a ridiculous workout where I burn over 5,000 calories because I'm jumping around and then grab my back because I'm like, oh no. But the other thing I think again, the defined excitement would be, I have a dream and I want to go do a business, create my own idea and go forward with that. And though it's excitement because I'm like, this is an opportunity and a possibility to happen, but it's also pure fear because I'm like, I have no idea how to do any of this. And I'm like, I can put my creativity on the page, but as for the actual anything to do with business at all, I am completely useless. I have no idea whatsoever. So there's this excitement of like, yeah, this could be super cool. And then also the paralyzing fear of, what? How do you do any of this? And why are there so many laws? Why is it so complicated? So I guess that's pretty much what I got.
Well, that's cool, man. I'm glad you have you're looking at that as like an opportunity, dude, and like you're not just like it sounds like you're not just sitting in like a what if, you're actually trying to make it a reality. So that's pretty cool, dude.
Thank you. It's very interesting. Normally you guys are the ones that are the optimists, and I am normally the pessimist, and we've slowly started to change, and I'm sitting here going, huh.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know, man. Life's odd. It just brings different seasons, and like,
yeah, that's true.
That's just one of the places we're in. But yeah, cool stuff, dude. I hope you keep walking that out, dude, and like keep asking questions, especially with like the business side of things, and like you keep it up, dude. I think it's really cool what you're doing.
I love it. You're up.
Let's see here.
Just pulled that up.
Oh, perfect. Nice. So
did you look at that yet?
I did.
It's a wild story.
Yes. So we had an article. One of y'all sent us in an article, and it was about the Nephilim. And you guys had two questions on it, which is, do you think this is... Oh, I guess it's kind of weird to try to ask that
So
question.
essentially this article, I just pulled it up.
Okay.
It says, the mythical Kandahar Giant, the biblical cryptid allegedly killed by U.S. Special Forces in Afghanistan. So in 2002, an elite tactical team was said to have killed the Thekandahar Giant, which was a 13-foot tall beast with flaming red hair, 6 fingers on each hand, and 2 sets of teeth.
Crazy.
In 2016, a YouTuber posted a lengthy interview with a military contractor identified only as Mr. K. In the interview, Mr. K claimed to have been present during the brutal slaughter of a killer he called the Thekandahar Giant. The killing of the giant, he said, took place during the height of Operation Enduring Freedom in 2002, when the military was engaged in fierce battles with the Taliban in their de facto capital in Kandahar province during the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan. But this was no human fighter. The Thekandahar Giant, Mr. K said, was 13 feet tall, fought with fiery red hair, 6 fingers, and 2 sets of teeth. It even killed one of the Special Forces soldier with a spear before the rest of the unit brought it down with 30 seconds of sustained gunfire. And after they radioed it in, the Army took away its corpse and has hidden it ever since. It goes on to say that the Special Forces ops that saw that's kind of an open secret among them. But they were forced to sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. And then supposedly, according to the writers, some of the people, they've started to come forward now because they believe people have the right to know this.
Wow.
And then their reason, they say that the Army would not want us to know this, or the government, is because it would back the Bible.
And they don't want people
They don't want that.
Oof.
Right. So that's kind of the giant. And then so the question is, go ahead. That's the gist of the article.
So the person, whoever asked this, you had two questions, which the first one was, do you think this is even possible biblically today? I thought they were wiped out in the Old Testament. So that's the first question.
Sure. Yeah.
That was the...
I guess you're right, biblically, right? If I were making an argument for this, I could say that doesn't mean that their bloodlines, or something.
Were right. Did not continue.
But again, you're right. According to Scripture, they were wiped out. You're also assuming they're Nephilim because the one person said that, like in the article.
Yep. And the second... So the second question is... But biblical scholars largely agree that the Nephilim tales were metaphors, not based on the reality of a 13-foot giant living in the desert. And they said, this has me thinking, because as I read it, it says the Nephilim weren't real. And I believe after reading the Bible and doing some research on them that they are real. So were they real?
According to Scripture, they were real. And now, they're not always giants. It actually says that they were like the great men of history. So I had a thought. You think about Gilgamesh, Hercules, You know, what if those myths, Gilgamesh, Hercules, for instance, very similar stories from different eras. What if those were tales of the Nephilim, the great men of, that have this blood in them?
It's crazy to think about.
But regardless, yeah, they existed, which was the the union of the angels that were cast from heaven with humans. Now we know that those angels that had done that were specially chained, even more so, like they aren't even roaming because they did that.
It's freaking nuts, man.
So demonic, yeah, these creatures. So very interesting. Very interesting little story. What's interesting to me is like there is, and I'm not saying this about you, whoever wrote this question. I think you have a really good question, but there's a lot of interest, man. I can't tell how many times I hear about the Nephilim. People always want to talk about the Nephilim.
Yeah,
I think it's just maybe the mystery of it.
I think so, and I think it's probably us trying to like wrap our heads around the reality of like a 13-foot being.
Yeah, but I just mean in general, like people want to like they're very interested in that concept. Right?
I got
the
you.
Nephilim.
Yeah, man.
It's kind of like the people that are really interested in the Book of Enoch. Kind
right.
Of deal.
Similar.
So,
I got
just
you.
Mystery or whatnot. Great. Hey, thank you for sending the article. It's interesting, regardless.
We love that kind of stuff, so it makes it really appreciate it. I got one more question.
Sure.
What part of God's personality and characteristics do you find the easiest for you to accept, and what do you want? What is the one that you find hardest, and why? Whew.
Boy, that's hard. Characteristics.
Yep.
It's easy. Here's one. I guess I'm going to define it this way. It's easy for me to accept God as Lord in the sense of like God is God and I'm not, and I don't understand everything. That doesn't mean I always obey Him like Lord, or that I accept. But the idea of God being God and me, He doesn't owe me explanations. He doesn't. That's easy for me. He's the King. He's the Lord of Lords, King of Kings. He is God. That is not an issue for me. Concept of father is a problem for me at times. Loving father. It's hard for me sometimes to put those two things together and to know that He loves me deeply, right? And not just like He, you know what I mean? Not that's just hard for me, I guess. If I were to if that's me defining what they mean by characteristic.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So easy for me to accept Him as Lord and Creator and King. Much harder for me to internalize and accept Him as a loving Father. Not because I don't want to. I want to. It's just hard for me. That He could, love me despite all the junk that I am.
Yeah, man.
Sometimes
That's really good.
It's really easy for me to see Him as a loving Father. To you, though, that's what's interesting. But not for myself.
So odd.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because
like I'm the worst one, right? In my own mind.
I think the same thing, man.
Yeah. Great question.
I would say for me, I think it's funny because I think I kind of flip with you. I think I struggle with Him being Lord because I am still a lot of the time caught up in like the way things were in my life. So like, I was just always kind of like, I'll do what I want, and whatever I'm feeling, that's just what I'll do, or that's how I'll act. And Him being Lord, He tells me what I need to do, and it's a command. It's not an option. And so I go, oh.
I don't like that.
Yep. I go, well, it's not how I feel. So that's one of my biggest battles is Him being Lord and me accepting that and obeying that. Got a little rebel in me, you could say. And then the one that I find easier to accept for me is like, well, definitely Father. Like, I think I have kind of a direct flip with like yours. Like, I can accept Him as Father better, easier. And I guess I don't really know why. It's just one of those things where
it's awesome. I mean,
it's just like, well, like things could be worse. Like, He's still protecting me. Like, I can look back and like even like at times when like I didn't even know Him, He was protecting me. So now that I'm aware of who He is and I know it's real, it's like, okay, like you were protecting me even when I didn't even know you and didn't accept you. Now that I have, like, how much more? Actually, not even how much more. It's just, it's always stayed the same. He's just loved me unconditionally, man. It's crazy. So, like, that one's easier. I don't know if it's the easiest, but I don't really know what the easiest would be, though. I don't know. His characteristics of maybe, like, it's interesting. I guess for me, maybe not easiest, but this is probably more on the harder scale. Is like trying to understand that God has emotions too. Since we're made in His image, He has emotions.
Yeah, absolutely does.
And it's hard for me sometimes because I go like, how does He not act out of those things? You know?
Yeah.
Like that one is just kind of hard for me to wrap my head around sometimes because like even when I think about like sometimes like I'll have like the slightest bit of something like whether that's frustration or emotion or like anger or whatever.
Yeah.
And I can either act on it or it at least changes how I like come off. And I'm like, dude, like the fact that He feels that all the time and is still perfect is unbelievable. Like it's insane to me. It's hard to understand sometimes.
It's a great question. Be curious to know, those of you that are listening, if you want to shoot us, your thoughts at www.theremnant.life/real-talk or,
Boom.
In the comment section of wherever you're watching, if you're watching a video.
Shooting comments.
All right, hey, we got more.
But wait, there's more.
I got something that came in today. Wait, because I asked on mine, right? Yeah. That was on my list, so here it is. So I have a question about this past election. So with all the craziness that's happened, how should we respond as Christians in regards to respecting our leader? Because from what I've seen and feel with the election, we don't really know who the leader is. So what do we do with that as Christians?
When it comes to like this kind of a thing, I know what the Bible tells us to like respect the leadership and like follow the leadership. I think when the leadership is starting to go above God and starting to trying to cut out things that the Bible tells you to do, that's when you don't have to. That's when you choose God over that. But as far as like this specific situation, like how do I respect the president? Like, I don't know, man. It's an interesting thing. Like, I don't know. If I'm being honest, because it's one of those things where I'm like, I guess what exactly are you looking to like respect? Are you trying to respect his decisions? Because you can agree or disagree with someone's decision making and still be respectful. So like, like I guess like, do you publicly trash the president? Like, maybe that's something you could stop doing if you feel convicted on that. Or like, I guess that's kind of where my mind went, but I don't know. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, here's the thing. I know what you're talking about, and I have to be careful, not because I'm afraid to say it, but because I don't want us to get shadow banned again. I will tell you this. So some stuff just came out this week, 2 days ago, about some stuff that happened in President Trump's campaign. He was spied upon. This is a fact. And now we're trying to find, and during his presidency, which is crazy. And now we're trying to, his name's Durham. He's doing a special investigation. He came out publicly and said this. He's tied, he has said he's making a claim in a court of law that Hillary Clinton campaign foundation, her group paid and worked with FBI members or corrupt members of the government to do that, on a sitting president, et cetera. And that starts making you wonder what's going to happen. Of course, we've all heard the claims of election fraud, and some of those are, that's not even done yet.
Nope.
What I would say is you just have to cross that bridge when you get there. AJ made a great point. Follow the laws of the land. If and when leaders at any position begin to tell us to do things that contradict our call or our conscience in Scripture as believers, then we know that we serve a higher power. But until that moment comes, we do the best we can to live at peace with everyone and to follow the laws of the land. You know what I mean? And by peace, I just mean not being argumentative and I'm not meaning go out and cause a stir.
Right.
But that's the thing. And I think even when you don't let anything come out of your mouth unless it's edifying for the building up. So like you can speak truth against things without tearing, because here's the reality. Even a leader that you don't respect is made in the image of God, and God cares about that person and wants them saved. So, saying things like I want to kill this, I want this person to die, or all those kinds of things, man. Like that's not the heart of God. So, what I would encourage you to do is keep praying. Pray that truth comes out. Pray that God puts the right people in charge. That evil and corruption is exposed and dealt with. And then in the meantime, pray for His direction for our country and for you and me. And then, if the moment comes that we find that out, then that question becomes more interesting then, right? If something were to come out, we're saying, hey, now you've got two groups of people. One says 100% this person isn't the legal whatever, isn't the legally elected official. And the other one says, well, we're not leaving. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. But right now, there's nothing wrong with speaking truth, ever.
Absolutely, man.
Does that make sense? So I agree with AJ beyond that. So great question. I love the real questions.
Yeah,
if that doesn't answer specifically, feel free to shoot us in more specific questions.
Yeah, and I like how you broke that down, dude, because I think a lot of the time, even me, like sometimes I don't think of like the basis of our faith in situations. So even like what you said, I like what you said, like, hey, like pray for them, like pray that they have like a change of heart, like that kind of thing. Like I think we tend to think. I don't know why, but I think we tend to think like we either have to just like blindly follow things, even if we disagree, or like we just like, or we have to like hate it. It's kind of it's the narrative of today in society.
That's really good, man.
Like it's been indoctrinated.
So so polarizing. I'm sorry, polarizing. It's got to be one or the other extreme. That's really good. All right, next question. Excuse me. With Valentine's Day being yesterday, and I know that the holiday can be super lonely. My question is, how do y'all deal with that loneliness? Either in the past, in the present, or ever. How have you dealt with that loneliness? Or loneliness in general? Sorry, everyone.
It's funny, we actually kind of had a conversation about this a little bit without even knowing this was going to be a question, so this is kind of cool. We'd all just kind of asked each other, like, have you ever, like, gotten, like, sad or lonely on Valentine's Day? Like, even if, like, say you weren't with somebody. And for me, like, Valentine's Day specifically has never really bothered me too much, whether I was with somebody or I wasn't. But as far as just, like, loneliness in general, do you think they're meaning, like, romantically because they mentioned Valentine's Day?
Maybe, but, I mean, they did just say loneliness in general.
Right. Okay. So...
I mean, they didn't say romantically, so...
So, as far as dealing with loneliness, like, I think I went through a time in my life where I just had almost kind of accepted loneliness, and kind of just, it was just like a regular part of my life. And how I got out of that was I had to force myself to be around people. And then before you know it, like, as time went on and I kept doing that, it wasn't as much as being forced as I just wanted to go see people, and I wanted to be with them again. And, like, a lot of the time loneliness, we can, and, it's hard, but we can use loneliness a lot as an excuse too. Like, we want people to come to us. We want people to go around anything that we, like, we're never willing to be proactive because being proactive can hurt sometimes, because when we're the ones jumping first and no one jumps with you, it can hurt. And that's something that, as a Christian, especially in your life, like, you're kind of called to keep jumping, you're called to keep jumping even if people aren't jumping with you, because you have to set that example, and that's what God wants us to do. We're supposed to love and love hard and love real, and that means sometimes we're going to put our heart in a sleeve and people are going to rip it up, and that sucks. But the beauty is, even if that hurts right now, God sees that, and that's, He recognizes that, and He knows that you're doing the right thing. We talk about crowns, like, even in moments when you do that, like, to me, like, that can be a crown, like, when you put your heart out there still. So I would say, in order to beat loneliness, you have to remember that your calling as a Christian, if you're a Christian who asked this question, like, your call is to stay soft-hearted. Don't have your heart grow hard and try to think that you can do it yourself. You have to keep putting yourself out there, even if it hurts. So that'd be my biggest thing.
Yeah, I was the same way. Valentine's Day was never really bothered me. I know it does that, and that's not me being, cold. I know that's a real struggle for some people. Now, loneliness in general, I've dealt with a lot, and gonna sound corny and cliche, and kind of depressing at first, but I struggle. I still to this day can struggle with loneliness. Right, loneliness to me comes in the moments when you feel like no one cares about your heart. No one wants to really know who you are. You can be the most popular guy in the world, most popular girl in the world, and be lonely because no one really wants to know the real you, or to deal with you when you're not in a good place. Right. So I think what I had to come to realize is no one can ever make me not lonely. Like for me, like there are always going to be moments of loneliness, and in that you find peace in the Father, and God is real, and God responds to you and can fulfill you in ways that you're just, most of us have given up hope of Him doing. So I've tangibly felt that before in my life, and that God gave me comfort and peace in those moments when from a worldly perspective I just didn't have anyone. So it's kind of like a two-part to simplify it. Accept the fact that nobody can fully fill that cup of loneliness in your heart. But and in doing that, but God can, and He does. Now, does that mean that we don't still long and like have to wrestle with human companion and want human companionship and friendship and even romantic relationships? No, of course not. Of course we want that. And I think sometimes in that pain, in that loneliness, sounds so weird, but like we grow and we learn, and we learn to appreciate what we really want. I hope I'm not sounding like fluff, but that's kind of my answer.
I think that's good. I think that's really good, especially like the part because I didn't think about that in the moment was like putting that pressure on people where God's supposed to be at. Like that's really good, man, because I think you're right. I think a lot of times we can overly rely on people.
Yes, and I will say the other thing that kind of a little bit ties with what you said is that from a human perspective, is I share with people when I'm lonely. Give people a chance to speak into that and say, but quit doing covert contracts. Quit tricking people and expecting them to come to you like you said, and actually just say, hey, I'm lonely today. I'm lonely today. We don't ever. We've kind of been talking about this. People don't just ever go, hi, do you want to hang out? Because they don't want to deal with quote rejection. So then we just all sit around lonely because we're like waiting for someone to ask us when none of us ask.
Yep. It's true, man.
So that's why, like, if there's nothing going on, right, that we can all just naturally go to without asking each other to, meaning these people, then we don't do anything. So start asking people and sharing.
That's good. I like that.
All right. Here we go. Do you guys think that Valentine's Day has become this weird idol in culture today and almost like a badge of honor or a trophy to show people? Example, how much they got, how expensive the gift was, how good their boyfriend or girlfriend, how great their life is. And then the bonus question is, how many of these people do you guys think are actually just faking on this holiday? And how many are really happy?
Oh, man. I think it's definitely become... oh, gosh, what was the first thing they said?
The part about being a weird idol?
Yes. I think there's definitely... Yes, badge of honor. I definitely think there's definitely like a badge of honor that comes along with Valentine's Day. I think a lot of times it's used as an excuse to treat someone well for one day and then just go back to normal the next day. I think it's definitely a competition. Who can make the relationship look the best publicly as possible, Yeah. I definitely think there's validity to that.
Yeah, it's a strange thing. I think that it is definitely an idol for some people. I think what it is, we actually had this talk too. I think this was yesterday. I don't remember. I think it was us, where we were talking about the idea that, because I was sharing with you that, you brought it up. This conversation started because I was like, man, it never bothered me. Valentine's Day never bothered me. And we've got some friends of ours who it's really, really messes with big time.
Yes.
And I'm sympathetic to that. But I think it just becomes a symbol, right? This day becomes a symbol of their hopes being dashed versus like, which I think is added more to because of the second question they said, where this person asked, which they kind of have made it into something it's not. And which we had talked about even.
Yeah,
like, hey, they believe the hype that it's roses and
it's not, man.
Yeah, that
it's so rare and like.
Well, and even if it is that I don't know what happens the day after.
Exactly. That's the bigger picture.
Yeah,
Like,
so
like the bigger point to me.
So do I think all the people that brag on Facebook? I read a quote one time that, and I don't know if this is true. I don't remember who said it, but something like, if you have to brag on Facebook about your relationship, you're covering something. I don't know if that's true. I'm not saying
Dude, that actually would make sense.
It makes sense about life too.
that. Yeah, not insulting you if you did. I'm not saying it's true, but I have
Right.
heard that. Like, if the same person is constantly doing it, like trying to, like, why are you doing that,
Like,
right?
it's
Why are
almost
you
like-
trying to give us that image?
It's almost
Well,
like
dude,
you're trying to
that's-
convince yourself.
Yeah.
Trying to convince yourself at the end of the day. And also, ironically, this is what I thought. Now, this is very cocky of me, but again, my wife is going to be a very lucky woman, but also a very upset woman with me at times. I think of this. You're right. What happens the day after? Look, at the end of the day, I ain't looking to have Valentine's Day once a year. I'm looking to have Valentine's Day every single day.
Boom, that's romance.
Exactly. I think
And
that's
they
where we
say
see a lot of
chivalry is
that problem. That's why it's an
I
item.
stabbed it. Sorry, I'm just kidding.
I was the murderer of chivalry.
I love chivalry.
I know you
It's
do,
not the
man.
women part.
Actually, dude, you want a guy who knows about chivalry. It's this guy.
Yeah, but I'm told I'm not because I don't know, because chivalry gets mixed up with
Well, it's not
like
real chivalry.
candy hearts.
Exactly, which is
whatever.
not. It's not the same.
Talking about the knights. Anyway, yeah, I will say I used to be probably that way though. Like you and I both, you said that. I think people would probably be shocked to see that I'm kind of like you, Clint, in some ways. That I used to be that guy.
Me
that
too.
would be like, "Ooh, here's a poem.
Yep.
Here's this," and then I realized nobody cares about it. So,
Dude,
so,
it's true though, man. Like I know for me, I made a little joke earlier off air. Was like, dude, like women were my life. That's literally all I cared about. So like, it's funny because,
oh man, I'm always uncomfortable. Sorry guys, I'm always uncomfortable in this chair.
dude, yeah, they're not great on some back support. So,
And then the back support I have pushes me forward. Anyway,
and you know, women were like everything. Like that's like the only thing I cared about for a long time in life, really. And like, it was like one of the only things I actually really ever pursued. And you know, it's funny because like you said, I was like that too. Like I would try to like, you know, bend over backwards to try to make anything and everything happen and make it, you know, the storybook of a relationship. And then, dude, it's just not realistic. And like, you know, I think then I didn't realize the problem was me, like, and how I was viewing it. And so it's funny because now it's like, yeah, it's not as big of a deal to me, but it's because it was all paper then, you know. You have a sermon that you preached years ago, dude, that's when I was first coming around, called Paper Christian. And dude, I can take that and like I can relate that to so many different other aspects of life. So like a paper boyfriend or like a paper relationship, like that's all it was, you know. And now that, you know, I met you guys, and, you know, and I know Jesus now, like, dude, like when it comes to like what you said, like chivalry, dude, like that's what women really want. They just don't. It's funny. It's like they don't know they want it, but they, you know, it's interesting. So, but yeah, I was that guy too. I was, and it never ended well.
yeah, yeah, I get it.
It's a strange thing. I think I've only ever had one Valentine's Day with a girlfriend. I don't even remember if I know I did probably something. I just don't remember what it was. Because this was also young Clint, who had zero confidence and still thought the same way. Just was like, had no belief in himself at all. Yeah, I do see that because it gets into a dangerous place of like then they become everything, and then that is not okay.
And that goes both ways. Women can do that with guys. Romance isn't bad. Love is not. You know, romantic relationships were wired for relationship. It makes sense. But you know, I'm always leery. They won't fix everything, and those people that are miserable. A lot of times, what I've found out is a lot of guys. Okay, women too probably agree, but guys I know pretty well is that guys will use their lack of relationship as a symbol for their failure in every other aspect of life. You know what I mean? So they do end up saying, "Hey, if I get this woman, then everything else will be good," and that isn't the case, and it's too much pressure too. So build your kingdom, then find your queen. Anyway, question: why do you think youth ministries are dying out across the country, especially since the youth are the future of the church? I ask this because I just look around and I don't see people actually moving with any urgency to teach or love on kids, and that's concerning.
I think it's something to be concerned about, first and foremost. Honestly, like, we're still, when I think of, like, me, for example, you know, if I'm just being real, I'm like a selfish guy, so I tend to think about my own life a lot of the time, and I can make up a lot of excuses of like, yeah, man, I'm just not good with kids, and like, you know, and I'm sure, you know, you take that kind of mindset and then you apply it to a lot of people. They probably are, if they're real with themselves, they're probably similar. And then you don't care about the next generation. You just care about yourself. So, I don't know, man. That's kind of where my mind initially goes. I think for people who actually do have like a heart for it, I think they probably struggle with fear would be my case. Like that would be my guess is like they struggle with the fear of messing them up.
I don't think of that side.
With like their own ugliness. You know, well, I'm going to instill that in them, so you know someone else should do it, and then before you know it, you have everybody saying the same thing and same issue. You know, no one's there to help. You know,
that's a good point.
Yeah, those are the two places I went. People who probably are too caught up in themselves, and then the ones who actually have a heart for it, they are too caught up in, you know, spilling their own crap on them.
Yeah, I also that's really good points, man. I think that I would agree with those. I also think people tend to view. Do you want me to be cynical, or do you want me to be like give a more optimistic reason?
You can hear both.
Cynical. It's because youth are not treated as people. So youth are treated as a way to keep the parents who bring the money. They're not viewed as lost people. They're not viewed as the ministry, right? They're viewed as
business.
Kinda. I mean, they're just viewed as like something that's needed to please the adults because the adults want their kids taken care of. Sometimes, I think that there is this mentality that, well, they won't understand, so let's not make it as important. I think there's this mentality of, you know, you want them to act a certain way, so you start training them to act a certain way versus actually discipling them. Does that make sense? And then, so that's sort of the cynical viewpoint, and I believe that. I worked in, you guys know this. I worked in youth, and with at-risk youth for a long time in faith-based organizations.
Yeah, man.
One of the organizations I worked with, my job was to work with churches and connect them with us, because I like to say to people that were church, I'd be like, listen, we've got a massive youth group, essentially, for kids that aren't Christians. That's what we are.
It's wild.
We wanted to connect them. We used to always say, come fish in our pond, you know, come here. And you wouldn't believe the amount of pushback I got for that. It's part of the reason we started this church. Genuinely.
Nuts, man.
It's one of the, so people just, and a lot of times youth leaders, they just think that their job is to, you know, as long as it sounds so cynical, but as long as they're investing in the kids of the people who matter versus the kids, you know, it doesn't matter if the parents a member or not. It doesn't matter if the parents on the board. It doesn't matter if parents give a lot of money. You know, all those kids matter to God, to Jesus.
That's really good, man.
Yeah, and then thank you. And then the other part would be, let's see. I said there were kind of two things as you were talking. I'm trying to think of the other one.
Just on the cynical side.
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't know. That was the real cynical one. I think I think your part is a big part of it, which is, I'm going to take it a little farther. You said sort of they're afraid they're going to mess them up. I think they don't want to put the effort in to connect with them. Each generation says, "Oh, this new generation is hard to connect with," and you know, here's what I can tell you. It doesn't matter the kid. Kids want connection. Youth want community. They want to be poured into. I used to, when I worked for this one organization, we spent money and we had all the things, the pool tables and the games, and I would do all that. I would have program all the games and the trips and all that. But that's not what changed lives. I could have all that. What I used to tell people is the volunteers that I brought in, it was important for me to find volunteers that were invested in the kids, because that's what kept them coming back. They long to be seen, to be loved, to be poured into. And even the best parents can't cover all those bases. There's I'm certified in this thing called the 40 Keys to Teenage Development from the Search Institute. You can look that up. And essentially what it says is the more assets a kid has in their life growing up, the more the better, how do I put this? The better chance it is that they become a productive and healthy member of society. No kid has all 40, okay? But you want a certain amount. And one of them is having other adults other than your family that care and pour into you. that is an asset.
That's rare,
and,
man.
You'll be shocked at how few assets most kids have. And man, the kids today are dealing with stuff that even they're anxious and they're scared because of the onslaught of social media. We'll go into that a little bit. It's bombarding them all the time, right? With fear, and with anxiety, and with this pressure to keep up because they've been raised in the social media like everybody's doing great. I should be matching them.
That's right.
They think that's reality. So I think a lot of times we just don't want to invest in kids, and it takes more than just saying hi to them to change lives.
It's really good, man.
So that's my thoughts. Sorry, I'm really passionate about
that's
youth
good,
and teens
dude.
still, man.
I think you're spot on, man. That's
just my
really
thoughts.
100% you're spot on. And the reason why I know you're so spot on is literally the group of guys I used to run with. Like, at the end of the day, we changed probably for the worse, but in some ways I'd like to think that we changed them for the better. There was kids in that group that did not, and we were there was a lot of hicks I was around, and then I wasn't fully, they called me a cowboy at the end of the day, but it was a weird group of people that we'd all do, and we'd get these FFA kids, or these kids that literally grew up in, like, the middle of nowhere. They didn't grow up in, like, the city. They still went to, like, Carroll High School, and they still went there because that was the only high school that, they were still farther out, and they were working on a farm most of the time, but they still had to go to school, so they went to Carroll High School because they didn't get homeschooled, and, like, there was kids that people didn't want to connect with, or they were the weird kids, and they would come out to these parties and stuff like that where they would just let loose, and then they would slowly along the way, your upperclassmen start to teach you a few things like, hey, you don't slap Billy in the face. That's not right. Like, he didn't do anything to you. Or you open a door for a woman. You always do that. You treat her with respect. You love your mama. You always go talk to your parents. Like, if you're gonna go do something, go do it. Like, and it was a weird thing. But I always look back now and I go, man, they are more investing into these kids in high school, to whether they go and become farmers or they go and become even criminals at this point. But these guys at these parties were more invested in these kids than some youth pastors are in their churches. And these aren't saved people, and they are not good people 95% of the time. But at the end of the day, they were willing just to sit around a fire with some kids and go, look, this is what I did wrong in life, and this is it. Have fun. Do this. And, like...
Yeah, they mentored them.
Exactly.
I mean, that's really what it is.
Mm-hmm. And nobody wants to do that, and it makes me sad.
It makes me think of, like...
That's good, man. That's how you change lives.
Yeah.
You disciple.
What I was thinking of, especially, like when you're talking about how... Because, I know more, like, your story with, like, you being involved in youth, and, like, a lot of the time I feel like people are focused on, like, the mass, right? Like, the masses, like... Well, we have this many kids come.
Yeah, let's get 100 or whatever. Yeah.
But it's you really know you're doing it when you have just a few kids whose lives have completely changed. And
I'm about to cry. That's true, dude.
Like
life change. That's what matters.
And like and that's why I think, like you said, like that's probably why you looked for volunteers who were invested, because you can't change 100 kids' lives by yourself. You can't. But like like it was your responsibility, and you had to take it on to invest, and the ones you invested in, you loved them, like you loved them hard, man, and like they did. The lives were changed. I know of one specifically, Zach.
Yeah.
So
he's a special guy, but yeah.
And so like,
and there are good youth pastors out there,
right?
And that's the cool part. When you meet one who's passionate, I used to know some, In fact, one of the ones, I think I told you this back in the day, was at one of the biggest churches here, and you're kind of surprised by it, right? They get the bad MO because they had a lot of kids, but he had a real passion.
It's really cool
for youth back then, and he was one of the few that like he would come there even for those kids when he didn't. Of all the youth pastors, like he could have done the whole like, I've got 100 ones I'm dealing with, So it's cool when you see that.
Yeah, dude. Like it's I think people are more focused on the masses of it all instead of realizing like sometimes you have to like it's the couple whose lives actually really change, and like it's what you said, man. Like kids really do look for connection. I was thinking about like just like interactions with kids that like either I've had or like I've heard people have, and like, man, like what does it look like to instead of just being like, hey, how you doing, buddy, or like, hey, having some fun playing basketball, like be like, hey, man, like even just setting the example, like, man, I'm kind of lonely today. Like, do you ever get lonely?
Yes.
And like, bro, like I bet you that would change a kid's like whole perspective of being able to talk to you, because I think a lot of the time, like when I think about how I interact with kids, like I don't ever do that, but it's convicting because I go, but I can. You know, I've had opportunities, and it's like it goes back to like being like selfish and insecure. Like we're like as people, as adults, like we can even be insecure in the fact like we can't tell like a kid that man we're lonely or we're sad because we don't see the impact it can have on them to open up and we can help. Instead, we're more worried about ourselves and like we can't look bad. We can't look like whoa. You know, we can't be sad because then that might make them sad instead of realizing, man, if they realize I'm sad, maybe they'll actually admit they're sad so then we can help. But no one thinks like that, you know? So that was another thought. And I don't know. That's something that I personally, even though I said that, I can take something away from that. Like, and it's funny, man, it's weaved into a lot of other stuff too. Like, that's why it's so important to be honest with each other. And like, you know, this question was specifically about youth, but then you can even apply it to life and your friends and your family. And like honesty is just so important because then you don't realize how many people you can help and lives that could possibly be changed just by you being honest, and then it helps them be honest. And like, dang it, man.
So I guess this brings up an interesting point. So in my story, there was a bunch of stuff that happened, and I was struggling with things, and I ended up praying to God. I said, answer this question. Maybe one day I'll go deeper into that. And I had a question, and it almost probably the most like I want an answer. Like, why? Why is this? And this applies to so many things in life. And basically, it didn't happen like immediately, like what everybody says. But what I basically saw an image in my head, and I call it the tree. And it's essentially, there's this line, and it's this line that keeps going, and it splits off, and you have two lines, and then that line hits another point, and it splits off again, and it splits off into three ways, and it keeps splitting off and splitting it off. And the idea is and that main line is still going and splitting off again and again and again. And the idea is that main line is you. And as you're going through life, that you're that line. And every time you meet somebody and you talk to somebody and you interact with somebody, that's another line going off. And then they go and meet somebody and they do it, and you directly impact that person. And you're doing that throughout your life. So that's why it's so important to do the Great Commission. That's why it's so important to go and do all those things that we're told to do. Like, we're going to go tell the gospel, because you don't know what you're affecting. You don't truly know what you're affecting. It's why you do need to talk to each other. You do need to go do that, because it's, again, why Jesus says they will know you by the way you love each other. Because they will see that. Because of that interaction, that affects other people, and then that interaction will affect other people, and then it's like wildfire. That's how the old church spread. And I don't fully understand everything about this, but I've thought over that a lot recently, where it's almost like it's coming back up again. It's like, again, God's speaking to me going, hey, remember this thing that I literally you asked for? This applies to your life right now. It literally applies to everything. You just have decided to be disobedient and not look at this. And like, it's that idea. And that's not even an idea to like, this is going to happen. Don't get anxious about that, because the whole idea of the tree is that it's going to happen no matter what you do. What you can do, you can't control how your effect on another person necessarily will come out. What you can do is do what Jesus told you to do and love on people and be that way and operate like he told you to operate. Go love people. Go make disciples of all nations. Pray, read, be with one another, talk to one another, love on each other. Like, it all affects everything at the end of the day. It's very intentional. And when you don't do that, you get into a sin culture. You get into the problems that are there.
Yeah, it gave me a thought of, if we approached sometimes those things that we're called to do, all the things you listed off, as things that need to be done versus things we wait to feel like being done. so sorry. Excuse me. So, I think it's like work or fitness. So much of that, when you do, you don't want to do it emotionally. You do it because of the end goal. And I think if we would stop approaching our faith as like a feel first, then move, instead of moving and then feel. And we just don't do that. We wait to feel before we move. And it's convicting to me. Yeah. Because what if we did 30 days of that? What if you did 30 days of every day waking up and doing exactly what God told you to do? Huh?
1 degree.
Yeah, 1 degree. Yeah.
If
you did one of those, yeah, it's good. Great stuff, guys. I love that. Great questions. The other question we got another one in mid-show.
Wow.
On deconstruction. I want to do and I know we've said this 75 times, so I'm going to say it to Funtern because he will keep us on it because you and I have failed miserably. I want to do a short episode on this concept of deconstructing Christianity. It's become a big deal.
Yes, it has. It's popped up.
The article that,
It's popped up a lot.
Yeah, well, that's what was sent in too. And they sent an article that it'd be good for us to read before we answer. I'd like to do that this week, guys. So stick with me. If you asked a question on deconstruction, came in mid-show, thank you so much. We are going to answer that and kind of go a little even deeper into that. I'd love to really dive into that topic because it's becoming it's becoming a big deal, man.
It is,
and
man.
A lot of people and my age and younger are this is some popular phrase, and we need to discuss. And the question is deconstructionism a good thing or a bad thing? Deconstructing your faith. So I really want us to dive into that, and I think it's important that everybody understands that this stuff is real, that it matters what we're telling people about it. And not to get swept up in the crazes sometimes of sort of what's popular, right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, man.
So, yeah, the article they gave is deconstruction a good or a bad thing? Thoughts. So we'll have to, before we can give thoughts, that's what I was doing, man, go kind of perusing it real quick because it popped right up, and we'd want to do that, but I want to do an article, an entire episode. So we'll try to drop that this week to you guys. Another little mini episode. Do you think we should do the real views on that little mini episode, or dive into a couple today? Here it is, guys. We're just talking and working it out with you live in the moment.
That's right.
I think we should do at least one real news, real view today, and then we could do the rest because we have a ton of articles.
We do, and they're really good. That's why I want to.
Yeah, we really do have a ton.
How about you, man? You threw them together, like put them together. We all brainstormed them, but I think you got a lot. Which one do you want to go over?
Well, we kind of already went over that one and kind of.
Yeah, I am going to go over it more in the next one. But.
You know what? We were just talking about kids, man. I think Gen Z would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I actually read that article as well.
Yep, that was the one I fully read.
Yeah. So, the article is it's from the Gospel Coalition, and it's 6 things Christians should know about Gen Z. And
really cool article.
If you want to go to that, you can go to www.thegospelcoalition.org/article/gen-z/. So you just type in Gospel Coalition, 6 things to know, and then it'll pop up.
Oh, yeah.
So it kind of starts by telling us that the leading edge of Gen Z turns 25 this year. And research tells us that Gen Z is less likely to read the Bible than previous generations. They're more likely to go to college, believe the government should do more to solve problems, and have a TikTok account. They live in a digital world that changes rapidly. They spend a few days offline. They don't know the jokes their friends are giggling at, et cetera, et cetera. So I kind of let you take it over from there. Also, I guess I should finish that. Gen Z isn't as cohesive as previous generations. The call for cultural references and grown-up experiences of one part of the generation, 25, aren't the same for a 19-year-old and different for a 14-year-old. So Chase Dawes, who's a Reformed University Fellowship campus minister at University of California, Berkeley, says, quote, Gen Z is rooted in the rise of technology and the novelty that created. They experience things at a clip much faster than anyone else, and they're occupying worlds we don't have access to and can't keep up with. But they aren't accessible.
That's right, man. And so they came up with a list of 6 things that we should know about, the Generation Z.
I guess before you get to that, real quick, sorry, I didn't know what you were going to go to, so I want to set this up.
Oh, my bad.
Couple things. No, that's okay. I didn't. That's me. I just think it's important, especially because you're diving in. One, it said nobody's debating. It's obvious that Gen Z, according to all these people, is less religious than any generation.
Oh, yeah.
We see that consistently, said Tony Dentman, Campus Outreach Area Director, University of Illinois. He says, it used to be that when I was dealing with a freshman in college, they'd say their parents or someone in their parents' generation took them to church. But in the last 2 or 3 years, students in Chicago have started telling him it's their grandparents' generation who are their faith connection. He said, quote, in my experience, most of them will claim they're atheists. However, once we're talking and I tell them what an atheist is, they're finding out they're agnostic. They don't know about God, don't care, and don't know if it's worth trying to find out. So it's not a surprise that Gen Z has a very low biblical literacy, which is funny because they think they know, meaning they don't know what it says.
Right.
They're less likely than previous generations to be familiar with the Bible, to know how to use it, or to believe the Bible contains everything a person needs to know to live a meaningful life. Since fewer of them know a real-life Christian, this is interesting.
Wow.
Often their conceptions of religion come from the media. So Christianity seems like a Republican thing, a conservative thing, even a Southern thing, or an anti-masking thing. But even if the Christian label isn't attractive, Gen Z is willing to talk about deep things, questions about injustice, identity, the meaning of life. Dawes says that when you get on the ground, people are still people, and you can have the conversations we've always had about who I am, why am I here, why do I feel guilt, what does healthy success look like, and how do I handle failure in a healthy way. He said these connection points, including agreement on the brokenness of the world or the seriousness of issues like body, vocation, or creation, point naturally to Christianity. Almost everybody's open to talking about the things of God. And this is so interesting based on what you guys said earlier, and almost everyone is looking for someone to talk to. All right.
It's really good, man.
It also says that even before COVID, Gen Z was the loneliest generation on record. And he said a lot of this comes from an idealistic portrayal of a relationship. This kind of tags into the the Valentine's Day question.
Uh-huh.
He said whether through social media or pop culture, Berkeley Rough campus staff member Morgan Kendrick said they see and post images of a friend group laughing in a restaurant, a couple dates on a beach, and if you read the comments, they're flooded with "I quote I want this" or hashtag goals. She said there's a desire for relationships, but a big disconnect in knowing how to cultivate them.
Yes.
It's easy for a church or a campus ministry to step into that gap.
Ooh, that's really good, man.
And then they go on to talk about that this organization started holding events, even though they're a Christian organization, that weren't explicitly Christian.
Nope.
Because what they were trying to do was meet them in a place they did want, which was community, ironically. So they said if we can't meet them, they're not going to come to this Christian event, but if we put on an event, a community event, they'll come, and then it's pretty cool. Then it says then they leave after getting to know people with having a lunch meeting or a coffee date with the pastor or a staff person. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So he said if you're interested in growing a Gen Z community, it's important to have a core group of committed young people at the center. All right. I guess I dove in a couple. I'm sorry.
That's really good. Oh, no, man. I think it's awesome.
Here, yeah.
I think...
And then there's more to talk about still, but if you have any... I was thinking I was setting that up, and I forgot that is part of the list.
No, it was good, man. I think yeah, we're into Gen Z is... So one of the points that they make is that Gen Z is anxiously digital. It says that connected to Gen Z's loss of in-person community and the rise of smartphone and simultaneously of mental health challenges, which is interesting. Gen Z is sometimes called iGen, a generation always on their mobile phones. You know, it's funny because that could even probably link into millennials a little bit. The level of panic is high. Everything is out there everything is out there all the time on social media. As this generation leans into that, their anxiety goes up. But as they disengage from it, they feel like they're missing out. So it's just kind of like a pendulum. They're always swinging back and forth. Part of the problem is that every social media platform is like a stage in which Gen Zers both perform and compare themselves to others. So like what we were saying, like even earlier with the Valentine's Day thing, like, you know, you're always trying to compete and compare and contrast to what people are seeing on just a social media platform instead of actually understanding people's lives, man. What they're trying to create is a life that they're never enslaved to anything, where there's always a way out. It seems like always having a back door would be liberating. Instead, it's often destabilizing. Being socially anxious is now so prevalent that it's almost cool. That was interesting. Yes, I thought that was very interesting that they brought that up. And then they continued and they said, "It's weird to say I'm fine," Millard said. "It's almost like if you aren't feeling anxious or overcome, it's like, what are you doing?"
That is true. Yeah. They go on in that same one. He says, one of their students recently asked them for Bible verses on loneliness, being lost and feeling unworthy. And he says, that's Gen Z right there in a nutshell.
Yep, that's really good. Let's see. But yeah, I mean, that's huge, man. And kind of like what I said a second ago, like it reminds me of, you know, you got Gen Z and that even leaks into millennials a little bit with this age of technology. You know, it's caused a lot of anxiety and it's caused a lot of like, you know, this weird part where we have to feel involved, but also like we realize that it's almost unhealthy how it is. But it's just like a weird conundrum. And I like that they mentioned how like the church is such a cool, like there's such a cool gap there to like fill them in, because it seems like there's always this A to Z, but this generation of people, you know, these kids, you know, they just have a hard time seeing everything in between. And we have such a cool opportunity as the church to like help fill that in, man. Let's see. I was trying to look for some more stuff.
As far as them being anxious and stuff?
Yeah. No, it's cool because they mention like feelings of inadequacy, anxiety, or depression aren't beyond Christianity. Instead, Christianity is tailor-made for them. That's what they say. We need to double down on the whole counsel of God. The Bible prepares you for suffering, for joy, for sadness, for total failure. And then it goes on to say, tech isn't all bad. It also offers opportunities. In Boston, there's a guy named Crew. He's been fruitfully connecting with kids online in California. And it says that there needs to, this another guy, it says, Kickert says there needs to be more Christian presence online, not less. Yeah. Or like, so like some of these other people said, like, so many of their opinions are formed through Twitter threads. I wonder what it would look like for the older, more seasoned folks to enter those spheres in a wise and reasonable way. Is that even possible? Can you be disengaged from the toxicity of that space while simultaneously ministering to the people who are forming their opinions there? I don't know, man. It's just they bring up a lot of good points and a lot of ideas, and like even that, like the Twitter thing, like, you know, is it possible? I think it's possible, but I can also see why they're even asking why it's possible, because it almost seems like any time you try to step into that world, you get sucked into it. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. They did bring up the point that it is possible to enter into that world, but it probably won't be older folks who do it. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the last point they make, is that, you know, it is possible to step into it, but it just requires, you know, some of the quote younger folks to actually, you know, take responsibility and take what we know and come alongside the Gen Z, you know.
Yeah, and I like, because a lot of it we see in our church. Our church people have asked us, but we've reached out to a younger demographic, and we see a lot of this being true. For instance, you know, they feel strong. This is interesting before we get to that. It says Gen Z feels strongly. It also says, okay, so the next point would be they're fervently principled. They have principles. They feel strong about some principles, welcome diversity, not challenging someone else's beliefs, which is so annoying to me, but less strong about others, lying, and that moral principles don't change with society, so they don't care to lie. But, however, one of their favorite principles is matching actions to word. 4 out of 5 Gen Zers said they would stop buying brands to spread the word about companies who thought their campaigns were macho, racist, or homophobic. When asked how a Christian would appeal to them, Gen Z's first choice would be, quote, seeing how the person behaves and aligning their actions to speak rather than using words to explain their faith to me. And he put it this way. I love this. Dentman says, in the church, quote, your outreach to the world has to embody the life of Jesus. It can't be all talk. And he goes on to say, he says, you know, he recommends to reach these college students, these people in it, recommends welcoming college students with things to do. College students, people serving children's ministry, welcoming visitors at the door, joining a home group, attending a men's breakfast. Quote, if you can cast a vision and let them know why greeting people at church is essential, we talk about this all the time here, right? The mission, why does one ministry matter? It's meeting someone who's lonely, for instance, and lost, and giving them a place that feels like home and family. Gen Z will take the volunteer t-shirt and own it. They're looking to make a difference. The next point is Gen Z isn't great with communication or commitment.
Yep.
It says they're hard to get. The most connected generation in history is also hard to get hold of. So some tips they give. Ask them to put their phone down in a meeting. Let them know when you reach out to them, you'll need to respond in a certain time frame. They may even need explanations about the repercussions of work not accomplished. For the past 2 years, COVID has erased many of the natural consequences at school. And this is encouraging and convicting me even, is don't take it as a sign of disrespect. Rather than getting frustrated, let them know what you want them to do.
Interesting.
Then, it's pretty cool. This one's wild. I don't know if you're a Gen Z's missional. It says 82% of Christian teenagers told Barna Institute does polls.
Religious polls.
Yeah. That is important to share their faith, and they're serious. Almost 80% of Christian teenagers have talked with someone about God in the past year.
It's wild, man.
Doing so doesn't make them feel afraid. Instead, these conversations make them feel calm and peaceful. Quote, Millard says they have a zeal for the Lord. It's really exciting. This generation is missionaries. These students are coming up in a world that isn't Christian. While previous generations grew up in a Christian America and went overseas to find unreached groups, Gen Z is more equipped to reach the post-Christian United States or the next generation than anybody else. Not only that, but they're able to go where other generations didn't. They're creating virtual worlds, and it's just pretty crazy, man. He said, today it's easy to move around the web without ever running into Christianity. This is so cool because we push this all the time in our church. Folks that are listening, listen to this. It's easy to move around the web without ever running into Christianity. He said, quote, I think digital missions will be led by this generation. God is doing something unique. Anyway, Millard sees a huge opportunity for great kingdom work in Gen Z. I really do. His advice to older Christians. If you're an older Christian out there, you want to know how to reach out to him. We were rushing through it and you lost interest, but pay attention right now. He says, quote, "Don't be afraid of their questions. Don't be afraid of their doubts. Just keep speaking truth." That's what Jesus did.
It's good, man.
It's good.
So good.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Love that.
It's funny, man, because I was born in '95, so I'm considered a millennial, but I'm kind of a cusp. I'd probably consider myself a millennial Gen Z cusper. So a lot of this stuff even applies to me. Like I can read that and be like, man, like that's kind of like that can apply to how I suck.
Stop it.
Or like just the disadvantages of like how I am.
Yeah.
Like,
You mean as far as digitally and how it's affected? Yeah.
Digitally, and even like the stuff they said, like, hey, you need to let these people know what repercussions they're gonna have. That kind of stuff. Like,
sort of indicative of like, there's no hard line on these generation things, man. They're all, this is this postmodern world we live in, this post-Christian as they call it, where, we've always known we're not, true Christians aren't the majority, but it's like becoming more culturally acceptable to not only not be Christian, but to even be anti-Christian. And so, who's going to be the leaders of this generation? It's kind of cool how this all fits in with the topics and what we talked about earlier. Anyway, long show today.
It's really good, man.
Go check that out, guys. If you're a pastor, if you're an older person who wants to know how to connect, these kids matter. And that's a great article from the Gospel Coalition on how to reach them and some really tangible tips.
Yeah, man. It's really cool.
That being said, I think we're done for the day. You got anything you want to say?
Just thank you guys so much for listening to this whole episode. If you're listening to this right now, then you made it. Thank you so much for watching the whole thing. Yep, we'll have a virtual cookie. Nice. What do we call it?
Gave it to you.
What are those things called that you sell that are not real?
NFT?
Yeah, we'll give you an NFT cookie.
Look it up.
If you're watching from Facebook, please give this video a like, a share, a comment. We just read to you how important it is. Like
to reach, yes.
Yes, like
it's good, man.
We talk. They're talking about how on the internet, so many people can just go through the internet without even seeing a lick of Christianity. Make that a point. Let's be part of this new generation. Let's put the crap aside and go. You know what, man? Like instead of just being careless and not caring about the next generation, why don't we do something about it? And you know what? It's digital. We got to do something. So share this video. If you're watching from YouTube, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you can get notified the next time we post. And if you're watching from Rumble, share the link, whether it's on your social media, give it a rumble. That's one of those places, man, that's still up and coming, and it'd be cool to get a better presence there. It's good. And other than that, I just appreciate you guys hanging around with us. This show is cool. It's one of those things, we go back and forth between our lives and just answering questions from you guys, and such a cool opportunity to learn and just, I don't know, man, it really does bless me. So thank you guys for your questions, and thank you for even just, listening, because without it wouldn't be a thing. So love you.
Funtern, you got anything?
All right, it's time for my nice, lovely spiel. Alrighty. So if you're listening on the podcast, we love that you're here, but we ask you to leave a review. You can tell us anything in that nice little box where you can write things, but we ask for it to be a 5-star review. You could even tell us your favorite hat. What type of hat do you like? I personally like cowboy hats.
Dad hat.
And ball caps. Or your favorite stuffed animal. I don't know. Anything you want to put down there, go ahead and put it down there in the little part where it says leave a review. Or you could leave us something very heartfelt. Either way, we appreciate it, and we greatly appreciate it. If you didn't like this show and you didn't like what we were talking about and you have lots of disagreement and you don't want to talk it out, if you do want to talk it out, we have a lovely thing. It's the anonymous link where you can drop questions in and we can have a discussion there, and we can't wait to have that discussion with you as long as you're willing to talk it out. But if you're not and you want to just be mean, well, you can go on down the road. We were happy to have you for the time that we have, and we're sad that you really hate us now. So we ask you to keep on going and have a great life. We'll be praying for you. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
All right.
Great job today, guys. All of you. Appreciate you. Love you. Hey, you know the deal. Come back. Keep sending those questions in there.
Yes.
Share, like, all that stuff. You heard it right here. I know a lot of people listen, but they don't share. Guys, listen to me. You want to reach this generation? You want to make an impact? You want to support a mission? This is just as much a mission trip as sending someone to a different country. I'm telling you right now. You just heard it from someone else. Take a second to like, share, or you can also support us financially. I mean that. You want these guys to be able to do this and give you even better content and longer. Well, they need to be able to function. We need to survive and equipment and all that kind of stuff. So consider giving a donation at www.theremnant.life/give. There's a drop down box. Go all the way down to Real Talk and then go directly into this show and this ministry. You know, if you're looking for a missionary to support, here's your opportunity to do something unique. Other than that, we love you guys. Hope you have a great day, and we mean this truly. God loves you. Bye-bye. God bless.